Hi, welcome to Between Two Corals, a One Dive family podcast. My name is Jason Meany. I'm the Director of Education for SDI, Scuba Diving International. And today I'm going to be talking to Kevin and Ed from South Jersey Scuba. We're going to talk about wreck diving in general and then a little bit specifically about diving in New Jersey off of the wrecks there. Hey, gentlemen, how are we doing?
Hello.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Another day.
Yes.
Living the dream.
Coffee sitting
Beautiful.
spot.
The
Amazing.
Jersey dream.
Yep.
Perfect. I love it. Very nice. So why don't you guys go ahead and just give us a general intro. We were just talking about the fact that you guys have been open for about 5 years and SDI facility and all that. So why don't you kind of just give us a rundown of who you are and then we'll get right into it.
Go first, guys.
Yeah, you should go first.
Oh, man. My name is Ed. I'm one of the owners at South Jersey Scuba. I've been diving since like 2006, more locally about the last like 10 years. And just really started just taking off on the Jersey wreck diving thing and really just enjoy what we have here locally, in addition to the travel piece. But it's really fun to just explore our own backyard more than what a lot of people would think about just, New Jersey, maybe in general.
Kevin, I'm here for moral support for Ed.
No.
Actually, no, I'm actually the other co-owner. I tend to do the more technical side of the wreck divings up here in New Jersey. So you'll see me potentially doubles, side mount, rebreather, all the configurations, and just having a good time.
Beautiful. And then you guys are active instructors, actually course director, instructor trainers, right? Did that 2 years ago, a year ago?
Yeah, I think
it's been 2 years already.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. So we're both SDI instructor trainers. So it's nice having two in-house so we can do, most classes, almost every class up to instructor level.
Yep. Beautiful. I love it. All right, let's get right into that. Talking about wreck diving. What got you guys into wreck diving? Kevin, why don't you go first? I'll reverse it on you. So, Kev, what got you into wreck diving?
What got me into it? Well, a lot of it was, when you're traveling to go diving, gets expensive after a while. So, my previous mentors had said, look, we got some of the best diving up here in New Jersey. And it was just one of those like, you know what, let me go take a peek at it and see what it's about. And just from there on out, it was love at first sight, if I can call it that. One thing that we have up here that's a little bit different than most other places is a lot of our wrecks are not artificially made. They are actual relics of war. So you get to see the wreck as it truly exists, and not artificially cleaned out, not sterilized. So that was one of the things that you go into it, you see how it went down at the time.
Interesting. And we're going to definitely come back to that because we're going to talk about some of the pros and cons to artificial but versus, real wrecks.
Pause. The first interruption of the day.
Yes.
Welcome. Someone popping in like, go Jersey. Oh my God.
Good dive shop. Yay, thanks.
Okay, Shane. Thank you. Action. Wait, where were we?
I don't know. You were explaining something.
You were going to explain your
I got into Jersey wreck diving.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, I originally certified in the Florida Springs in college. So coming back home to New Jersey, this is all we have here is wreck diving. So it was kind of one of those things like if I didn't want to just go and dive Dutch Springs 1,000 times, it was go give a shot off the coast. So I can still remember my first Jersey diving. It was not the same as the Florida Springs, shockingly enough. And I wondered, why is it green? But the more you do it, the more you start to like it and then love it. And this is, like Kevin said, this is what we have. If we don't want to be traveling and spending a bunch of money on trips and travel, we have really, really good wreck diving, and some would say some of the best wreck diving in the world right off our own coast. So,
which is funny. It's funny to hear you guys say that because there are other people that have the reefs right there that absolutely 100% spend the money to come do the wrecks off of New Jersey, New York, whatever. I mean, we see it, by me, St. Lawrence. You guys even travel up, I'll spend the money to go see these other wrecks. So, it's interesting that perspective of like, it's right here. Oh, I'm just gonna do this, but then I really want to travel and see other things too.
Yeah,
so
same.
It's funny to see that. So you guys have been teaching wreck stuff, right? Or guiding. Actually, let's go with the guiding of wreck stuff, right? So you guys grab charters and stuff like that and let people come on the charters. How does that work with charters? Like any tips and tricks there?
Ooh, this is always an interesting conversation. We always have this a lot with our students. The biggest thing that we see is the hesitation. People are like, well, I've heard, like, people have said this, and a lot of it is at some point you find a good mentor, and a good spot to start is actually with your education. Like, okay, if you're doing a wreck and you have a really good location, then the instructor will take you to those wrecks, and that's how you first start off with it. And then from there, you start learning to meet the crew. You come on, you go diving. The big piece about that is not to be afraid. Like, at some point, we all have to jump into it. Think about jumping into scuba. Like, most of us never got dragged into it. Most of us are like, well, this seems like I would like it. Let me go try it. And then before you know it, you're way in, and now you're talking about wreck diving. So it's the same thing with jumping onto these boats. Is make it known that you're interested in it and get a good mentor. And that's what naturally happens around here in New Jersey. Is we have a very, very open community, that you have people that are willing to say, hey, look, okay, I'm going diving this. You can tag along with me and let's go explore it. And trips turn into all of a sudden just an obsession almost.
Well, and when we specifically have charters that we pull for people who have not been off of Jersey at all yet, or maybe they've only been out like one time. And that charter is open to divers of more or less any level that haven't been out yet. And also, it does kind of cater more toward, say, like a more entry level, beginner, open water level diver that wants to get into the local scene. And there are charters that are fully guided too. So you're with a staff member the whole time. And the boat has less divers on board. So, some could say it's less intimidating for a newer diver before we get them up to some of the other boats with more divers on board. But all the boats around here have really good people, really good crew. That's a reason that we use 3 or 4 different boats.
That's excellent. So I was going to get into like tips and tricks you guys had for like brand new divers, but I think that's one of the ones where reaching out to like your local SDI center and saying, hey, what's happening? How do I get involved in this? There's a support system for these sorts of things. And I know that you definitely can step onto a boat that might be more diving than what you're ready for. And going that route is huge. I love how you guys did that. I know other people do it too, but like seeing you guys specifically throughout there, this is a brand new diver type of thing. So on that vein, tips for brand new divers. I'm an open water diver that I'm saying, what, these wrecks look interesting. What's some of the things you suggest to these people that are brand new divers? What are things that you see from your end that you're like, I really wish that more people knew this?
Ooh, this is a really good one, because we do get this question quite a lot. Where this also brings us up to another question, which is, do you do the dives or do you do the education? So what I tend to tell my students is take the class. Take the class. This is how you can get a lot of knowledge really fast and really get ahead of the curve. It's a little bit more difficult to be learning on the fly, especially when you're diving. This is where having somebody mentoring you and guiding you from there really does help. At least the way we teach the wreck up here, we want you diving on these wrecks. Of course, we can go someplace and see a car, but when we got this type of history and this type of amazingness off the shore, I want to share it. I want you to come in and enjoy it. Yeah.
And depending on the level of the student coming in, or just the diver that wants to get out, whether or not they have a ton of equipment. Personally, I like to preach organization. So like I know, Jason, you're used to the milk crate routine. So up here, like big bags, we don't really need them on the boat. But we can pretty much fit everything into a milk crate that's organized, and kind of get it down to a little bit of a science, to where you're not stressing little things like, did I pack my gloves and my light and like this and that? Like, we tell them start early in the week, the boat's coming up on the weekend or whatever day it is, and start getting organized, get your stuff together, get it in the crate. So, as soon as you get up in the morning and got to head to the boat, everything's there. You're not worried about forgetting things, just to help reduce some basic anxiety. That goes a long way, I think.
I love that you brought that up. Like literally, I'm packing to do a photo video shoot for SDI, and I went out to my garage and grabbed my 2 milk crates, one New Jersey milk crate, one New York milk crate, and was just going ahead and looking through that and giggling about some of the stuff that I had in there that I was like, definitely don't need that for Bon Air. We won't go too in depth on that one with the audience we've got, but so milk crate. Let's explain the milk crate a little bit more. I think that is a really good tip that a lot of people don't, especially that's kind of seems to be a northeast US type of thing. Milk crates, I'm not sure where else uses them, but it seems to be we've really grabbed on to that. So can we just explain the milk crate really quick?
Yeah,
sure.
Okay.
You want us to get one?
Ooh, go grab one really quick. 5 seconds.
Gotta make a decision. Nope, not both of you at the same time. Nope.
Wait, Kevin's got a milk crate right here.
Milk crate it is. This is like the Muppet Show.
So if you don't know what a milk crate is, this is a milk crate.
It's a milk crate.
Yes.
There it is.
Smaller one.
Yeah. You guys, that's a literal milk crate. You went to the dairy and got it. All right.
No,
Borrowed it. It's getting returned later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got my milk.
Yep. So that's a square one. That's pretty much square, fully square. There's ones that are a little more rectangular, a little bit longer,
have the big ones that handle the 6-gallon containers.
Yep.
But the premise behind the milk crate method is that since space on a boat is limited, as much of your gear should be organized into here. Anything that's unnecessary doesn't go. Anything that is spare or extra that you don't see yourself carrying with you on the dive does not make it inside this milk crate. Now, if we're looking at organization, you do run into a few premise of thoughts. Some people just lay out their stuff out on a table and then just chuck it into the milk crate. Others will start organizing and building layers is how they'll start doing it. So depending on which way you do it, as long as what you need for the dive makes it into this milk crate and then makes it onto the boat, you're in good shape. So that's what this is.
Fins Beautiful. On top, bungee over the top. Everything's compact. Only bags really kind of going on with us are maybe dry suit bag or exposure suit, stuff like that. But we don't need the gigantic, full equipment bag.
Yep. I love that. I mean, that's something, that it's those sorts of milk crates been around for so long, but I only didn't see them until like the last few years are really being utilized on boats. And as people see it, they just kind of adopt that as being, that's just general boat etiquette. But when it comes to wreck diving, you start to gather lots of accessories. Accessories are tools. You got to bring the right tools for the job, but this accessory and that accessory and this accessory and that accessory. And then it keeps you organized and being able to know that you've got what you've got, and it's visual, You're not looking into a black bag with a flashlight to see if you actually have brought everything you needed to bring. So
the funny part about the milk crate method also is it really makes you focus on what do I truly need for diving and not start collecting stuff. So it's a very practical approach. And honestly, we would rather you be spending your money coming out diving on the wrecks and experiencing it rather than collecting and spending money. If you think about it, everybody enjoys the experiences. So if you think about New Jersey wreck diving, it's an experience. I tell all my students, you only get the one first Jersey dive and enjoy it. It might be green, it might be brown. It could be 100 foot of clear water, mantas, humpback whales swimming around you.
You have mantas and humpback whales?
We've had that
New Jersey?
before. Oh, yeah, we've had
Jersey.
it.
Okay.
In Jersey, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then so it's one of those, like, that's, I think, one of the other things that makes Jersey diving so much fun is you don't know what you're going to get until you get out there, which is really fun.
And that's what a lot of wreck diving, right? The amount of times that you're like, I think some people's biggest mistake on wreck diving is they spend all their time looking at the ship. Look off to the side every once in a while, because what's out there, sometimes you get these big animals that are just like, I'm just coasting by. And people are like, did you see the whale? Did you see that? Like you said, manta? Like, no, I was looking at the metal. Like, every once in a while, take a look off.
Yeah.
But
surprised.
Yeah. One thing I want to hit on there, Kevin, since you brought it up, is you said you only get one first New Jersey dive.
Yeah.
I want two answers here from each one of you. One, what would be your first New Jersey wreck? And 2, what would be your first or bucket list dive outside of New Jersey, specifically wrecks? Yeah.
I'll let Ed start with this.
If I can go back and do my first Jersey dive or my ideal first Jersey dive,
Yeah.
if I'm at, say, like, newer diver, open water level, down off of Cape May, there's one tugboat that's in 60 feet of water. It's called the Red Oak, upright, intact tugboat. I think you hit it at like 40 something feet, pretty shallow. That would be the ideal, say, maybe at least in my mind, kind of first timer wreck. We don't have a ton of charters that go out of Cape May that can hit that, but been off it on a private boat and it's good. My other choice, if I was a little bit more advanced, would be the Great Isaac. That's a tugboat on its side, sandy bottom. Usually we get really good conditions out on that too. So those two, are two that stand out in my mind.
So you're a tugboat type of guy.
I guess.
It seems like we just naturally went to the tugboat thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, more advanced level. I'm not going to name all of them up here, but the Algol is easily a fan favorite because it's huge. If anyone watching has dove the Spiegel Grove off Key Largo, it's pretty similar in stature and size to that. And then, man, if I could pick one wreck worldwide,
yeah.
I mean, this year I'm looking forward to hitting the Red Sea and getting on the Thistlegorm.
Ooh,
finally.
I like that. Very nice. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that.
That first dive is similar to Wolf Islander up here by me off of Kingston, Ontario. That's another fun one. It was a ferry boat that passenger carry, but cool. Yeah. It's got all the attributes that a wreck that makes a wreck. I do think that one was artificially sunk, but it's got all the aspects of a wreck, and but it's a little bit smaller footprint, so it's a little bit easier to get a grasp of the whole thing. Yeah. Kevin, you're 2 or 3 there.
Ooh, okay. So if I'm looking for a new diver, I like the Northwest Barges out of Barnegat Light. Okay. So with it, it's several barges that I think the history isn't really fully known. I think they were towing the barges and it floundered in a storm. But there's so much life on there, and there's still so much stuff to be explored. There's a lot of them. I think there's, what was it?
Oh my god!
Dude, I can't even tell you how many. We haven't even explored it, and I've been diving for 20 years. 7
or 8 in the same spot or something.
Yeah, it's a lot of barges, and it's constantly changing, which is what makes it fun. So that's mine. That I
70 foot.
Yeah, it's 70. It's just slightly a little bit beyond recreational, open water recreational. But it's an awesome site. And yeah, constantly changing. And that's what makes that fun. If I am looking at a bigger wreck, for me, I love the Stolt. Stolt is, again, 60 feet at the top, goes all the way down to 130. Now, here's the crazy thing about it. It's a massive wreck, but it's only a chunk of the wreck. It's the if I remember correctly, it's the stern section, and it is massive. If you ever get a really good day where you can see the whole wreck, it is a sight to behold. You just can literally stand back, get off the wreck, look at it, and it's amazing. It's big, and there's still so much stuff to explore. For example, last year they were finding olive oil bottles in it, and vinegar bottles coming from the galley. So that was last year. Yeah. Okay.
Been a long time.
Around the world. This is a hard one. Truck Lagoon is always amazing. Yep. And I highly suggest anybody that's thinking about it, definitely go. I will say this is a lot of people get the impression that those wrecks are in technical realm. Most of that wrecks can be dove recreationally. So if you have your deep certification, you can easily do a good solid chunk, 80-90% of the wrecks there. I think my next one is probably going to be the Saratoga in Bikini.
Ooh.
Yeah, I have that coming up in June, so that'll be fun. But I think there's just every wreck has its own little different characteristics and different areas.
Yep.
At some point, I do know what's high on my bucket list is Scalpa Flow over.
Yep.
Yep. So that's definitely on my list of wrecks to do, and then also the Britannic. So
okay,
yeah.
So you just opened up a whole can of worms of stuff we need to talk about here. And we're just going to go in chronological order of what you just opened up there, Kevin. All right, first one I want to cover is we're talking about wrecks in general. We're talking about going ahead, and one of the things that I really love about wreck diving and is not, I love the diving, but the flip side to that is the history of it.
Yeah.
So quick, not long history, but what's cool about the Stolt besides the fact that the stern's still underwater? Give a general rundown, 90-second version of the history of the Stolt, if you can.
Ooh.
And you'll be graded on this.
Oh,
wait. Oh, Ed's going to do it this time?
Oh.
Kevin's going to grade you.
I'm not the wreck historian that I should be. I just like to dive on them. But
okay, so the Stolt was, if I remember
boat?
correctly, a tanker that had, in World War II, got struck by a German U-boat off the coast of New Jersey. And if I remember correctly, it floated. It didn't sink immediately. So it actually floated like something like 20 miles.
A few miles.
And then it finally sank.
And they still salvaged the rest of it.
Yep. They
saved
the
rest
rest
of it.
Yeah, stayed up. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
do I know more about the Stolt than you New Jersey boys do?
Possibly.
Yeah. Oh my God, geez. Yeah, the top is still floating. It's still
let me look it up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's what makes it fun about these things is like, if you look at it, in order to find history, you have to almost like look at like the news clips, the microfiche from back in the day, and then you have to almost like
library guy to me. You go to the library a lot, yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, I was there this morning.
right before the bank.
Yeah.
So you definitely got to look through the history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it helps guide you as to how am I going to navigate this vessel? You know, and every boat's different. Every boat's different.
Yeah, and when you're on that charter, ask for the wreck book.
Mm-hmm.
They oftentimes have got a waterlogged version of one of the local wreck books that are like, flip through this.
Yeah.
Right.
Or if you're even luckier, you get an old salty on the boat that's like, I know about this vessel. I was a kid when that thing was hit. Yeah, that's what makes it fun too.
If you're in New Jersey, look for the chains, right?
Oh yeah.
Chains on the feet. So the other one you mentioned was, so we talked about the Stolt a little bit, like part of it's still floating and part of it's underwater. They salvage part of it. Then the next one you talked about was Truck Lagoon Juke. Yep. Generally, again, the 90-second version of, like, a lot of these people that might be listening to this have no clue what Truck Lagoon is or Juke or anything. I mean, just the general scratch the surface of what are you talking about? Where in the world is this place?
Yeah, so Truck Lagoon is, if in simplest terms, it's like the Pearl Harbor of the Japanese. It was in the South Pacific, Micronesia in particular. It's a naturally occurring atoll. So a lot of the Japanese vessels would go there to just catch some time, offload the crew so the crew could relax, and then they would do repairs and stuff like that. And it was Operation Hailstorm. The U.S. operation caught them pretty much, I think, off guard.
Yeah, it was a cloudy day. Yeah,
and we just went to town on a lot of the transport vessels. There are a few military warships there, and they were just either undergoing repairs that they couldn't just flee out of the area, or just the element of surprise. Yep.
And one of the cool things about that that I want to hit on here is that some of those vessels, they decided to take regular passenger vessels and convert them into military vessels, which you'll find is, as you're navigating these and looking for swim throughs or becoming more adept to advanced wreck diving where you could actually do penetrations in them, you start looking at military vessels, and they are designed to be conservative of space. So doorways are small. very small.
Yeah.
Where merchant vessels or regular passenger vessels have larger doorways because it's about comfort. So these, the ones in truck that you and I saw, we were down that trip together, is, those doorways are huge because they just put guns on top of regular vessels, and it makes it very easy to move in and out and move around those ones. So it's a cool World War II historical area. What are your military vessels down there? The Stolt? No, the Algol. The Algol is a
Algol is
military
definitely one of them. Algol is
It's
an artificial too. It's an
Yep.
artificial one, which is funny because like back in the day, they didn't do the amount of cleaning they do nowadays.
Yeah.
Instead, they were like, "Oh, well, we're gonna sink this, so let's shove as much stuff onto it." So if you actually go into the captain's quarters, the logs are still there. Transport, like the daily logs, are still there.
That's cool.
And yeah, was that where we got the toilet? No, it wasn't where we
Yeah,
got
that
the
was the toilet.
Oh, it was the toilet. Yes.
Give me a rundown of Bikini Atoll quick, and then we'll come back to
okay.
some of the other mentions there.
So Bikini Atoll is where they tested out one of the nuclear weapons after World War II. They wanted to see what it would do to vessels of different sizes, different calibers. So they put a whole bunch of warships as they would appear during war, and they put them at certain distances away from the blast site. And so you have all these World War II vessels that were used almost as like little dummy targets, and that's what you got. So now you have this preservation of history and time that it does take a little bit of effort to get to. I mean, you're going from Hawaii to Guam around. I think it comes out to like 20 something over hours plus.
For you, other people might be closer, right?
So it might be closer. Yeah, you're in Hawaii.
Yeah,
come on over. Yeah. Yep.
So it was a nuclear test site, right? So they didn't make multiple runs to actually get them all to sink. They were trying to figure out where to detonate the bomb, underwater, above water. So all those vessels, like you said, are down, and there are some significant historical vessels that were captured. Before we get into the toilet stuff, we're going to use this as a hanging one. You have some significant historical wrecks. Now they are deeper, they are more technical, but it's something that people will strive for periodically, and some that are a little bit more, in the New Jersey, North Carolina area, that on that deep certification, SDI deep certification, you could go ahead and get there. Why don't you talk about what those are?
Yeah, go for it.
You know where I'm going?
I mean, probably our most famous one up here is probably going to be the 869, the U869.
Yep.
Have you been on it?
I have.
Kevin's been on it.
So you and I were on it together, right?
Yeah, we were.
Oh, you both were on
it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still some charters that run out to it every year. When were you guys on it?
This was like
3 years.
3 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. What kind of shape is it still in?
So, like with the submarines, they tend to build them a little bit thinner. They need a little bit more speed. So it's holding up, but definitely cracks are already starting to show.
Yeah.
Again, it's you're talking what 60, 70 years of being underwater. And Mother Nature's not kind to.
That sits in.
Yeah, that's about
deep
200. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. But there's German U-boats, and I think this is one of the things I was trying to get is there's German U-boats off of New Jersey, off of Rhode Island, off of North Carolina. There are German U-boats sunk in our waters. Some of them are deeper than others. I think off of North Carolina, it's within sport diving limits. So you don't have to go into deco on those in any way, shape, or form. Yours guys are a little bit deeper. Do you guys have any shallow U-boats? You don't have any shallow.
We do. Well, we don't have a shallow U-boat, but we have a shallow American boat.
Oh yeah,
the S5 down in Cape May.
Nice.
Yeah, that one is a really interesting story. It was It was going out on a trial. They had done some retrofits to it, and its ballast tanks failed to blow out. So what ended up happening was where it sunk is shallow enough that the tail of the S5 was sticking out, they managed to cut a hole into it and get an attention of a passing vessel. And that's how they literally saved everybody aboard that one, which is absolutely bonkers.
Crazy story. Look that one up for the S5.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm probably going to steal Ed's question here, but specifically, I'll ask it for you, Ed. Were there any tugboats involved in this
I
whole
don't think
thing?
so.
No tugboats.
No, I don't believe so. But there was a tugboat that towed the SS United States down to Alabama. There you go.
Oh, there you go. There, yeah,
have that.
new one. There you go. Your tugboat. Are they going to sink the tugboat with it? So you've got something.
They should.
They should. Yeah.
But the S5 it's a crazy story.
Yeah.
You know, what's depth on that one? 150, 160, something like that.
It's a little bit deeper than deep, but it's there. Now, if you're going for shallow, you always have what is it? The one off of North Carolina, and then what is it? Massachusetts Rhode Island has the other one.
And they're still finding some of these too. I mean, they're finding new wrecks all the time.
Yep.
You know, they're still trying to identify. I'm sure there's plenty that have been found already that are keeping kind of, you know, tight-lipped for those that are working it and not giving up until they know what it is. Yep. But yeah, we see it every couple of years. They identify something else, and there's plenty more. You know, it's from like World War II. They said they had, as we know, U-boats right off Atlantic City and seeing lights. So we got, you know, it's crazy history, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, so let's get into now. Not playing hands too much on how we feel about this, but obviously we kind of know how you feel because the toilet was extricated from a vessel. But what's kind of different about New Jersey waters with artifacts?
I mean, so like Jersey, it's not just like wide open playing field. I mean, we still have the same rules. If anything is like a, you know, war grave or anything like that, it's going to be hands off. And then the flip side to that is they're also, you know, non-war grave ones, you could say, are pretty hands-on, where you got divers that'll try to take almost anything off of them and salvage stuff. I know like worldwide that might be kind of frowned upon, but for a lot of us, we see it as an opportunity to bring up relics and things that nobody's going to see in general, unless they're, you know, a handful of divers that are locally diving and know where to go and where to see these things. I mean, especially some of the bigger stuff that comes up, you know, items from like the Doria, or like some of our friends that pulled up the foghorn from the Doria. And these are items that nobody's seeing these things unless they bring it up, they salvage it, and they restore it. And it's a huge process, huge undertaking. So, I mean, for us, we think that in that sense, you know, they're really doing the scuba community and like history of the world kind of community some favors. You know, they're bringing up things that we're not going to see, or even people don't even know about. Now, I mean, the toilet we brought up wasn't exactly like a historical relic of
I
any
heard it was
kind.
a Kohler. I heard it was a Kohler. And
it was a Trenton pottery toilet made locally, so it was local and historic.
Yeah.
Actually, geez.
For us, it was just kind of like it was there, it was convenient, and we thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah,
we brought it up. Captain Jim, shout out to the Gypsy. I don't know what he thought about it. He didn't yell at us for it, but he let us put it on the boat and bring it home. So we did. Nice, yeah, I mean, other than that's probably the biggest thing that we have, like, if you want to call it salvaging, Jesus. Yeah. Other than that, it's, you know, smaller things, bottles and like, God, who doesn't dive the Stolt and come back with a piece of the tile from the galley and stuff, you know? But
yeah, pulling the tiles off, and it's got like the labels on behind it, and that stuff's falling off at this point in time, right? Like you're not even like
deteriorating anyway.
Picking it up. So.
Yeah. Well, you know what? If you think about it, like how this is a way for us as scuba divers to give insight into a previous generation to people that don't scuba dive. Like, unless these items start making it into museums and coming out of the ocean, well, to some extent, like nobody's really looking at, oh, well, let's look at 20th century nostalgic vessels from 1960s. They're not. You look at a lot of these vessels nowadays, once they're done with them, they go into scrapyards and just get broken down and pretty much trashed.
Yeah.
So this is almost, for us, it's like an insight into everyday life on these boats. So we actually have a really good museum, the New Jersey Maritime Museum, that a lot of these artifacts end up into.
Yep.
And you know,
they do a great job.
They do a fantastic job.
And I think like again, kind of looking on the global scale, just trying to like if anyone is going to be like, oh, don't touch the wrecks, or they're trying to like put it in general terms, we're not going from say like these wrecks or we know the rules and then going worldwide and trying to break things off, or like I'm not going to Thistlegorm in September to try to bring up my own motorcycle. Like that's not happening. You know, we're still very respectful of all the wrecks. Like, you know, everyone for the most part is going to know what they can and they can't take, and no one's trying to destroy the dive site.
Right. And a lot of it's even off the sides of the ship, right? Like
a lot of it is. Yeah, it's just kind of there for the taking.
Yeah. You find or storm comes through. And plus, you know, I'm, you know, from St. Lawrence, Great Lakes area, and these are very different wrecks to that, right? These are not in deep, cold waters that are so cold that no degradation happens. Last I heard, the Stolt had parts of it, you know, flailing in the current, you know, like sheet metal that used to be solid that's just degrading over time. So
yeah, it's going to happen.
But we also don't have what, like, for example, St. Lawrence or some of the other places have, which is they have preservation societies that take care of, you know, blueprinting and then documenting. So in that regard, at least those are protected and have some ability to be kept intact. Whereas off the coast of New Jersey, as Ed had mentioned previous, there are still wrecks that we don't even know about. And the only way for us to find out its history is for somebody to go in, find one of the builder's plates, and then try and cross-reference it with what we believe it to be potentially, or to find serial numbers and go from there. So
and along with that, we've kind of gone off track, but we'll come back on it after this. But the idea is, a lot of that stuff is not, you know, people are like, well, leave it for other people to see. There's a lot of stuff that's deep down in there that people are going in to get, that are advanced divers with significant training, that they're going down into, you know, the lowest parts of the ship and going, oh, look, I found this thing. Like, all right, well, no one else is finding that, right?
The average diver isn't pulling that out from where they got it from.
No.
Yeah, there's plenty of holes in the Stolt and the Algol that I'm never going to get to, and I'm okay with that. But I'll leave it to you guys to go find the panel switches and all this fun stuff for me.
Then you can see it, right? So, and that comes into knowing your limits, right? Like we've talked about at this point in time, everywhere from intro to, you know, these advanced level wrecks. And I know for myself, I still go back to the intro dives because it's still fun for me. Like I still, even if I wasn't teaching, I'd still do some of those intro level, you know, the ones you do when you first get your sport diver certification. You've got your SDI open water and you're doing it, like Keystorm up here. And I know you guys come up and dive that too.
We love that one.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about that a little bit of, you know, Kevin and Ed, you guys both have significant wreck history, you know, diving and experience diving wrecks. Kevin, I've done a lot with you on different wrecks, but, you know, do you still have that nostalgia, and do you still find value in going back to those wrecks you did when you were just started open water diving?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, every dive you do, whether it's wreck dive, reef dive, I mean, you could dive the same place 100 times and it can always be different. What's nice with wreck diving, depending on the condition of the wreck that you're diving on, you can really start getting familiar with the wreck layout and where you're going. And that's not to deter, you know, wreck reels and things like that, but you start getting a sense of comfort on the wreck and really knowing, like, you know, I'm probably not going to get lost. I know where I'm going. And you can really start to enjoy it a lot more. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been on some of our wrecks, but sometimes it only takes like one really, really good day. Like last year I had like 60 foot of visibility or so on the Vizcaya, which I hadn't been on in like 8 years. That was one of my first Jersey dives. And I did the circle the boilers for like 45 minutes and I thought it was horrible.
Yeah.
And I was wondering why anybody would do this.
Yeah.
And then I did it last year with that kind of visibility and really kind of got more of a layout and a whole appreciation of the wreck and exactly like what I'm diving on, and kind of put a whole new perspective on that one particular wreck for me. And it was almost 10 years apart, you know, and I had kind of not really wanted to dive on it because the last time I was on it, or a time or two, I didn't think it was that great, you know, and then you get a day like that and just the whole thing's different and impressive.
And it wasn't even a tugboat.
No. No, it was not.
Much bigger boat.
No.
Yeah.
Way a little bit different way to navigate it, though.
Yeah.
Wreck diving is really interesting of a situation in that, yes, you have this man-made object. And what I will say is it's constantly in a state of flux. You know, you may go back the next year and all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, that panel is now open.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait a minute, now this is. So even if you've dove in 1,000 times prior to it, the next season could open something else. So almost like a little insight into the wreck that may not have been in the previous year. So what you start running into is, yes, you've dove the wreck a lot, but every time you're getting something new, which is on a time scale that us as humans, we can see. Whereas if, let's say, you go in a cave system, you know, unless somebody artificially comes in and kicks something down, not a lot of that is changing, you know. So this is one of those big things is you can go on a wreck a year from now and it could be totally different than what you've seen previous.
One storm, it could be next week, right?
Around. Yep.
Yep. I mean, there's what is the one in Grand Cayman?
Kitty Wake.
Kitty Wake.
Yeah, it was straight up and down. Now it's listed.
Yeah,
At least 45 and then more.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it's always changing. But and that brings up good points of, like, you know, get trained, make sure you understand what your limits are. You know, do that sort of, you know, SDI rec, SDI advanced rec, you know, whatever deco procedures or anything you need to do more of those advanced type of things that you're trying to do. But every single time you do a wreck, poking your head on it is, even poking your head in, you might see different things. Like, all right, there's a new hole to just kind of shine a torch in and see what the deal is. You know, maybe it's something completely different that you've never seen before. Something fell off. I mean, when you and I were in truck there, Kevin, Aaron brought us to, you know, we're trying to get into this wreck and looking at it and going, can't figure it out. We backed up a little bit and the entire side had like collapsed. And there was a massive hole and we were like, oh, there. That big hole is where we should go in, you know. So, but we all had appropriate training and everything like that. But, you know, even being able to poke your head in and going, oh, this entirely new world has just opened up to me, which also brings up the fact that wrecks are always changing. Be careful. Definitely do not go above your training, because you can get into a world of hurt very, very quickly.
So speaking of training, this is also a way, if you're a new diver and you find that you really like wrecks, guess what? You can go from recreational all the way through technical, just focusing on wrecks. For example, you know, if we're talking within the SDI system, you have the wreck class, and then you have the wreck with limited penetration, and then you decide, hey, I want to go even further. Okay, then you can head up into the TDI level of having like the overhead environments and that. And then before you know it, you had no intention to become a tech diver, and guess what? You now are.
Yep.
And it's all for the love of it.
Building experience in between those, like you said, grabbing a good mentor. The mentor is not a replacement for the education, so don't go past your stuff. But a mentor is amazing to have. Right. Even just getting to know different areas, right? Like not just New Jersey, not just New York, not just North Carolina, you know, in the United States. You know, you had mentioned, who mentioned Scapa? Kevin, you mentioned Scapa Flow, right? Yep. Like, Scapa is a wicked cool story, man. Like, I would love to get up there. I really want to see that. Not sure if I'd make it past all the scotch before I got to the wrecks, but you know, but yeah, that's the history is there. But finding a local mentor that really truly understands and knows this stuff is, especially if you're residing there and it's going to be your frequent stuff. So we saw a big jump in diving and certifications when travel was restricted, because of the fact that there are so many wrecks local to people. It takes a little extra equipment, takes a little extra training, but you know, but with that being said, that was a long segue into equipment and accessories. Like, we've mentioned some things. Unguided, new divers tend to go ahead and buy everything and look like a Christmas tree, right? Like, we've all seen the jokes about that. But if there were some go-to worldwide tools, not just, we're not talking hammers and screwdrivers and wire cutters of New Jersey, right? sledgehammers, air hammers, whatever you guys got going on there.
Yeah, they get there.
Yeah. I'm a brand new sport diver. I'm going to get into wreck diving. What are a couple of items that I kind of need as a tool to help me get ready for this type of diving?
I mean, for us locally, or anywhere for that matter, good lighting, good torch. I mean, I have my favorites. I'm sure Kevin has his. But
yeah, we don't need to do brand, but like
no,
to add on to Kevin, like to add on to Ed's comment, like 2 lights.
Yeah, 2 lights, 3 lights. Multiple cutting devices. Surface marker buoy. For us, we tell everyone with a finger spool that can be from your deepest point. So, like for us, we have 130-foot, I guess, plus finger spools. So in theory, if you find yourself at our deepest recreational limit, that should still hit the surface and be visible. I mean, we have had people needing to use them. Some of the boats up here want to see a lift bag and the surface marker buoy, where surface marker buoy means you have a problem. Lift bag means I found something in theory. Most of that's sort of generalized at this point for our local boats here. But those are
the boat you can ask what the boat policy is, right? Like everybody's a little bit different. One's a orange yellow or something like that.
Yep. Correct. Rec reel, definitely a solid rec reel. Something that has the ability to be sort of cut resistant, so a little bit thicker line. Not necessarily looking for distance. You're looking for more robustness of it. If you think about it, very few divers are doing 400 foot away from the boat. Most of what you want to see is going to be where they tie in. And that's the one big thing I think a lot of new divers tend to forget is putting, let's say, a reef ball on a reef is a lot of investment. I mean, getting somebody down there to put the concrete work in, putting the ball in. So they're not going to just throw it out in a really bad place. They're going to put it where pretty much people are going to come and want to be at. That's the same with wrecks. They tend to target the boilers. They tend to target the upper superstructure. So they're not going to be putting you in a place where you need to go 400 feet away to see the good stuff. They're going to put you right there.
Yeah.
So a solid wreck reel.
And the bigger thing too with the equipment is not just having it, but also knowing how to use it and when to use it appropriately. We've had a couple of times where people have the gear and they don't always know how to use it.
And practicing before you need it.
Yep.
Yeah. Practice with it with gloves on. If you're going to be diving with gloves, you want it stowed and set up for you you can deploy it when you have gloves on. Trying to do knots and things with 5 mil gloves or thicker or dry gloves. It's
Mark Powell just wrote an article on practicing with gloves if you're going to be diving with gloves. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great article.
It's a good idea for sure.
Yeah. So we talked about wreck reels and spools, a couple of things, SMBs and lift bags. One of the things I want to get into really quick is just a quick synopsis of the difference between a wreck reel and a spool. I keep mixing those together. Wreck reel versus a spool. Newer people listening or newer people, might have no clue what the difference is between the two of them. So just to Kevin goes and finds the two options for us to show us. But we need a verbal explanation when he comes back with those.
Okay.
Yeah. But one of the things I will say, well, Kevin's grabbing that is that one of the benefits here you guys were talking about from your deepest point going ahead and being able to launch a DSMB, that is, if you can't find your way back to the ascent point, you can safely make a free ascent on this thing and people know where you're at. It is not to be scared of. Don't do it because we much prefer you to come up the line, but having that capability that it makes it from an emergency to an inconvenience, right? Like I would rather have it be an inconvenience than an emergency.
Yeah. So. And we tell everyone too, like, if you want to take a minute or so to try to search and find your anchor line, that's a good idea. And then, but don't waste too much time, right? And gas allowance and all that good stuff. But as long as you're on the wreck somewhere, even if the wreck is in pieces, our wrecks don't cover like, hundreds of yards. So if you at least tie off to a part of the wreck and you're still on it, send up your service marker buoy, with the finger spools on the bottom. And we're going to sacrifice a relatively inexpensive piece of gear, and then we can come up that line. That's way better than coming up doing a free ascent and drifting. Now, if we have, we're trying to do our safety stop too and do the right things, you can get pretty far away in an ascent, taking 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes more, whatever it is, if you got to do your safety stops too. So it's always better to be on the wreck versus just drifting.
Yeah. And there's ways to sort yourself out also at the same time and keep maintain all of your equipment, but we'll leave that for class on how to go ahead and do that stuff. So Kevin, it looks like you do now, but remember, this is going to be turned into also an audio podcast. So make sure you're explaining what you have there and explaining the differences while you still show it. You can use your model, Ed, if you want to use your model.
So I have the finger spool. So finger spool sounds exactly what it sounds like. It has a little air hole in the middle.
Yeah, you want to keep it in the plastic so it doesn't unspool.
Yeah.
All right, I just pulled this off the shelf. So it's a spool that you can literally hold between your fingers and just let the line come off of it when it's attached to a marker buoy or lift bag. Now, the thing about this one that separates it from what Ed has, which is the actual wreck reel, is that this does not have a reeling mechanism. So this one, you have to do it by hand, re-spool it back by hand. Whereas with a wreck reel, you have the ability to mechanically spool it back up.
Yeah. So
and it has a stopper.
Full wreck reel, you have, we like ones that are pretty simple, not too many working mechanisms here, but basically this is going to have a start and stop mechanism, just a thumb screw. So now it's open, I can run it out, and then I can also reel it back in with said handle if I knew how to use it. There you go, this way. I don't usually spool that way. Yeah. So I can reel it in, and it's got the big handle here for you to hold on to, as opposed to the finger spool, which is not going to have no handles, no start stop. In that case, it has less items to get snagged on as we send it to the surface in essentially an emergency situation. And then we're not dealing with other things that line can get snagged on in the process.
Cool. And then can't see it right now. And people that are listening wouldn't be able to see it anyways. But when you unwound that reel there's a loop at the end.
Correct.
Yep.
Why in the world is there a loop at the end? Because there's a loop on that and there's a loop on the spool. What's the loop for there?
Ooh.
So on the wreck reel, this would be to be able to attach it to said wreck. A lot of us will actually put a double end on the other line. It's a little bit easier to kind of just loop it around our piece of the wreck that we want to attach to and clip it off and run. We don't want to attach this to the anchor line or the chain pile in the event that the boat breaks loose for some reason. You don't want to become a dragging anchor scuba diver for that wreck as well.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
Yeah.
And then the finger spool, depending on how you deploy it, I loop my finger spool directly to my SMB, so it's already attached.
Yep.
And then when I take it out, I usually undo my double ender and it's ready to deploy instead of having to deal with any sort of attaching said SMB to the spool in the event. Again, if it's going to be an emergency, we want it to be as easy and as quick as possible to take it out and deploy it.
Yep. And there's a lot of different techniques, and we'll leave that for the class.
Oh my God, go watch YouTube.
Yeah. Different ways to make sure your double ender doesn't open, different ways to wrap line to make sure that that it's your lifeline and secure. Like you said, don't attach it to certain things that will then drag you along. Don't attach it to things that move. Lots of different things. Different ways to use them in caves and caverns than it is on wrecks. Like different areas use them differently. So definitely taking, working with someone, talking with someone, taking courses that involve those are massive. But those are a couple of huge tools when it comes to that. Anything.
We like to try to work that into almost every one of our classes, especially on the kind of more advanced side. Start really getting familiar with the SMB at least, and working with it neutrally buoyant, deploying it, the whole thing. So it's fun. Nice. It's fun doing the task loading.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember when.
Oh, you got stories.
Oh, I got plenty of stories. I think it was Michael Brown that decided to make a big orange bird's nest while we were working on stuff.
Yeah,
so
he was just trying to give back to the A Bay.
Oh my God. Oh yeah, that's right.
Made a donation.
Kevin's
Mine's
write your
Pang,
name
on the
and
river.
phone number on your SMB.
Yes.
Write your name and phone number on your SMB because what? Kev, was it you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
Kevin lost. I was teaching Kevin, and Kevin had to, because if a bird's nest on you, you don't want it to drag you up to the
Give it to
surface.
Michael Brown, and it was like, oh,
We let it go. We had to call the Coast Guard and say we are not missing Kevin Pang. He is. I made you do it. Actually, I was like, you need to call the Coast Guard right now and tell them you are not a missing person, and that if they find your SMB, that you aren't, to not create a look around for you. So
smart.
Yeah. So yeah, writing your name and phone number so that if for some reason your SMB was lost or anything happened, that people know who it is. I like to put my name huge letters along the entire thing so that the boat knows who I am too. If I launch it, they know which diver it is. So that's just some tips and tricks there. Any other equipment? We got SMBs, we got torches, we got reels and spools.
I mean, locally, our boats prefer to see redundant air source.
yes.
That's a major requirement. I know a lot of people do, even travel wise, people end up having sling bottles and pony bottles that they like to carry anyway.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more popular. So
yeah, it really is. So
that's one I didn't think of.
Up here, we do. We suggest nothing smaller than a 19 cubic, preferably a little bit bigger, just because at 130, if we're thinking just recreational, that's like probably barely enough to come straight up. Normal.
It's actually harder to rig a 19 than it is a 40. Just make a 40 happen, right? Like
sling it. Let's go.
Yeah, a little bit easier. So,
so I think that covers all the like real like intro accessories, right? Like, hey, I've got these things, cutting devices, things along those lines that would get somebody, into that XDI rec course and ready to kind of go there.
If you think about it, more of the rec course is more about the education side of it. Like if you think about the equipment, SMB, finger spool, good light, cutting device,
standard.
It's pretty standard, just as even as a open water recreational diver does to have. I know we tell our students like those are your basic items. Get those. Don't even think about dive computer, regs. Get your safety items first. You can rent almost anything else, but most places will not rent an SMB or finger spool. The boats up here will have it, but again, most of us already have it. So
and it goes back into the knowing how to use it in an emergency, right? If you're renting those items, you're not proficient in them. They work a little bit differently. Every brand works a little bit differently. There's different ways to inflate SMBs. I think you went through that with me, actually, where I have a really random SMB that works not like most other ones, and I steal everyone's SMB when I teach tech, and then I hand them that one when they need to deploy it. So that
and you learn pretty quick.
You learn very quickly that's a necessity. So
super lightweight for travel too. It's not. It maybe it adds a pound to your luggage, but
always have it.
A pound for safety. It's a no-brainer.
All right, cool. I think we've covered a good portion of the Rex. Get a book, read some books, get some education, do the education, find a couple cool Rex to do, and move forward from there. Any big trips you guys got coming up for Rex specifically? You guys are getting close to season right now. I mean, you guys are.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, we have just locally, we have 3 different boats with. I haven't really counted them specifically, but I don't know, 20 or 30 different boat days picked, and anything from beginner level to more advanced. And a number of the boats here will do some technical dives too, weather permitting. But on shop side, we have Red Sea in September, and then we have the Philippines in 2027 to do the Wrecks of Coron too, which is
nice.
Almost like a mini truck lagoon, a couple more Japanese World War II wrecks. So that is what we have coming up wreck wise.
Yes. And I think the biggest thing to say is that be careful, not just diving, but doing wrecks, because you're going to become obsessed, and then it's a different level of diving, right? It's a different thing. It's similar to caves and caverns, right? You might get that itch, and then it's
sucks you right on in.
Yeah, that's all. I know people that have moved to where caves and caverns are because they love caves and caverns, right? Those sorts of things happen. So But I appreciate your guys' time today. I'm going to have you guys say goodbye, and then I'm going to sign off here. So thanks, Kevin and Ed.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Jason.
Definitely.
It's good seeing you.
Enjoy.
My pleasure. Well, thank you very much for watching or listening to Between Two Corals, a One Dive family podcast. Thank you to Kevin and Ed for giving us their expertise on wreck diving, and we went a bunch of different ways there. Really appreciate that. If you enjoyed the content and want to see more, we have a subscribe button right up here. It's going to be right there. Go ahead and subscribe for us and take a look at us on anywhere you can find podcasts. Those will be coming out pretty soon. So on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all those different areas. But really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you watching and listening, and give us that subscribe. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Cheers.